Happy Mother's Day, AP Euro. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that I think we need to address regarding the DBQ, and then some of the questions that some people were putting on to that document that I have up on Google Classroom. I'm gonna leave that there all week. You guys can go ahead and put more questions there, and I'm going to continue to make these videos every evening according to what I see on there, all right? So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the thesis statement, okay? Everybody's pretty much getting the thesis point. We're not having a really big issue there, but I want to talk to you again about line of reason. Line of reason tends to be the area where we're struggling the most, okay? So here's what I want you guys to do. You've got that T-chart. You figure out what side you're going to take, your B argument. I want your line of reason to be what it is you see going on in your B side of your T-chart, your thesis statement. Generally say what is going on in those documents as your line of reason, and then you'll automatically be proving that in that body paragraph, okay? So let me give you an example. Let's go back to the French absolutism. Louis XIV was the term absolute monarchy, an appropriate term for his rule. So let's say you are going to argue, yes, it absolutely was. No pun intended. All right. But let's say you're going to argue that it was a good term to describe his rule. Well, what I'd want you to go and do is generally look at what you see going on in those documents. And in two of those documents, you see that he has gotten control of religion, that he was able to appoint bishops. And in another one, it talked about his control and his issues with the nobility. Or maybe you even brought in some EBD, like maybe you talked about the building of Versailles in order to keep the nobles off of their lands. Whatever it is you said. So your thesis could go like this, and then listen to my line of reason, okay? Your thesis could say something along the lines, remember A and B, but B is greater than A, line of reason, okay? So what you could do is something along the lines of, while it can be argued that the term absolute monarchy was not a fitting term for the rule of Louis XIV, it is very clear that the term actually very much so described his rule. This is best exemplified, or because, this is best exemplified by his control of religion and his control of the nobility. Okay, now I didn't do it because line of reason there. I said this is exemplified, and I said two things that we see there in those documents. If you take what you see going on in your line of reason and you generally say what that is, you're gonna get the thesis point, everybody, and then you're gonna be on your way to getting the complexity point. All right, so that's the first thing I want to talk to you about and make certain you understand. Remember, in that line of reason, I don't want you to name drop docs. I don't want you to get specific with what you see going on in those docs. Just say generally what you see going on in those docs, specific enough to back up your argument as to why you're arguing the term absolute monarchy was good, and then get done with it, all right? Next thing. All right, so the next thing I have on my list here, let's talk about your structure of body paragraphs, okay? Don't forget, you gotta have a topic sentence. If you don't have a topic sentence, your reader doesn't know if you are arguing your counter argument or if you are arguing your argument. You gotta have a topic sentence that's clearly letting the reader know. And everybody, this is a 45-minute test. You've got to do your argument first. You've got to flesh out your side first. You don't have time to do the counter argument as your first body paragraph. And so many of you are doing that. Don't do that, okay? The next thing that I want you to do is, so you got topic sentence, and then document, and then commentary, and then another document, and then commentary, and then document. So I have a little way, and I know I've used this in class, but this is what I want you to do with your documents and commentary, okay? You are going to say, the document says, it means. Document says, it means. Now, you're not going to say document says. You're going to name the source, and you're going to say who they are and what this document says. And then the it means portion, that's your commentary. Document says it means. Document says it means. Now, what if you want to throw in a cap there? You have two options, okay? Document says cap it means, or document says it means cap. It doesn't really matter. You'll kind of just know which way to go because the flow will be happening, so to speak, okay? You'll just know where you're gonna put your cap in there because you're gonna probably do it right where it makes sense. But remember, it's not all that big of a deal where it goes either way, all right? So, topic sentence. Doc says it means cap. Doc says it means. Doc says it means cap, EBD, whatever it is. And just make sure you end those body paragraphs with a little nod back up to your thesis. These sources show that, and you repeat what your thesis says. All right, so remember that. Doc says it means. Doc says it means cap. Okay. All right, some of you are putting all of your EBD into a third body paragraph. That's cool, you can do that. Just make certain that your EBD is, in that case, really arguing your side. Otherwise, you're gonna wanna put your EBD into the argument side where it best fits, okay? All right, cool. Next thing, I had a student ask, what exactly is the complexity point? All right, there's a number of ways to get the complexity point. If you can bring in some sentences that show continuity and change, if you can bring in some sentences that show comparison, that's not really easy to do in a DBQ always because we're not always looking at being able to compare things. If you can show cause and effect, you can get the complexity point. But again, the easiest way to get the complexity point is have a complex split thesis that says two sides. You take one side, all right, and you have a good line of reason as to why that side is your argument, okay? What you generally see going on in the docs. And then you have two body paragraphs. One body paragraph for your side, a second body paragraph for the counter argument. And then finally, last but not least, commentary. Commentary that's constantly taking the reader back to the thesis. When we have all of those things, we get the complexity point, okay? So the complexity point is really easy to get if you have that complex split thesis and you have your A argument and your B argument with commentary. If you're lacking the commentary, you're not gonna get it. All right, let's talk that counter argument paragraph here really quick, okay? I've seen a few kids in the DBQs you wrote last week, you only have one document in your counter argument paragraph. You gotta have two sources, whether it's one document or it's one document in EBD or it's two docs, but you just can't have one source. At least I don't think you can. Maybe they'll be lax with that this year. We're all in uncharted territory on this DBQ, but I think it's safest to have two sources in your counter argument paragraph. And remember, you guys, you can do really well without even getting to that counter argument. So just make sure you put that counter argument paragraph after your B argument. Your B argument needs to go first, okay? All right, another student asked, can art be used as evidence beyond the document? And that answer to that is absolutely it can. Art and architecture can serve really well as evidence beyond the document, but you gotta make certain that you are using it in an authoritative fashion. You've gotta make certain that you maybe know the artist and you really understood why the artist was doing what they were doing and how it leads into and ties back to your argument, okay, as evidence beyond the document. So yes, art and architecture can really work well. And you know what? Think about back to that Louis XIV DBQ. A lot of you brought up Versailles. You could bring up Versailles and its grandeur as evidence beyond the document and not just as home for the nobles to get them off their land, okay? So know that, and yeah, art and architecture can totally work, okay? Finally, the last question that was asked this weekend was, will my actual slides be available? And my answer to that is, I don't know. I'm really not certain that they will be able to be accessed during the test. I do know that what they want you to do on the test is open up a Google Doc or Microsoft Word or some kind of word processing document. They want you to type on your own document, and then they want you to cut and paste it into their feed in the last 5 minutes, okay? So does that mean you're going to be able to open up other tabs like you would to look at my slides? I personally don't think it's a good idea. I do know they're using a lot of fraud software that credit card companies use in order to make sure cheating isn't going on. I also know that they are putting every single student's DBQ through a certain high-tech turnitin.com where it's really looking to see if you have cut and paste anything, and it is recording every time you do cut and paste. Now, obviously, they definitely want you to have one cut and paste, and that's going to be your massive cut and paste into their box for you to submit it, okay? But they're also going to know if you cut and paste other things, and they're going to be running things through. So please, whatever you do, let's be really careful with that. Again, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. I'm probably, you know what I'm going to talk about here. The HTS, you guys. This is gonna be the biggest thing that's going to be helpful to you. Get those tabs in there, get the context set up for all of those. It will not be the exact same prompt, but you know what, even inside the charts, you're probably gonna find EBD there that you could bring up, okay? And you just get that stuff going and get that ready, have it on your desk when you're taking that test, and I think it's gonna be really helpful. Finally, just remember, if you don't have evidence beyond the document, but you've got everything else, you've got an 8. And again, everybody, you do not need to get a 10 to get a 5, okay? And you're probably not even gonna need to get a 5 to pass, okay? Maybe I would imagine a 4 is gonna pass, okay? And we can easily get a 4. All right, just by doing a couple little things and turning it in, All right, that's about it for today. Put up more stuff, and I will have another video for you tomorrow night. Oh, look at this, 13 minutes. All right, have a good night, everyone. Tell your mom you love her, and do something nice for her. It's Mother's Day, and I don't have a mom anymore. Well, obviously I have a mom, but she passed away a long time ago, so give your mom some love. Talk to you later.